These episodes are intended for mature audiences. Viewer and listener discretion advised. This is Stories of a Dandelion with me, Gina Rett, chatting to military brats about the encouraging stories that got them to where they are today. Today, we have Alejandro Villanova on the podcast. Former Shapian, turned Army Ranger, NFL player, and now farmer. Alejandro shares about how staying in his comfort zone helped him grow during his first couple years in adulthood.
In the military, you never experience those things. You have an incredible safety net, and so I didn't feel brave enough to leave that safety net. And I've always been really comfortable with the military, with the food, DFAC, PX, NEX, the roads, MPs, the military ID, the rules, driving slow everywhere. So, for me, the military was the easy transition.
While having a purpose has helped him focus on the goals he has set. How being on deployment was easier than adjusting back into civilian life.
That I'm going to be able to deal with this is if I go back again. So I said,
a lot of people say that.
What's the fastest way that I can go back to Afghanistan? I don't want to be here. I don't like this. Take me back to Afghanistan, please. I wish there was a way to stay in Afghanistan until I feel like I can come out. I'm ready now to come back.
And the suddenness of having to come to terms with death at the age of 22.
With this, you cannot go out there with any fear when you're doing missions. You cannot be slow on your feet. You can never have a mental block. You can never panic or just sort of like stare into nothingness because you're scared. So let's reconcile the things that you're scared about. Let's write them down. And so in the specific area that I was in.
Can I ask you a question real quick?
Yeah.
How old were you on your first employment?
21, 22.
Wow.
22, 23.
Wow.
Yeah, so I graduated when I was 21, and I did a year of training. And so between 21 and 22.
Wow.
So I sat down and I said, okay, I can die from an explosion. That would be very quick. If I step on a bomb and I blow up on a vehicle, like a massive bomb, that would be a very instant death.
And how the Army to the NFL was his toughest transition.
So leaving the military was the hardest thing that I've ever done.
This is his dandelion story.
All right. Welcome back to the podcast, guys. Today, I have Alejandro on the podcast. Welcome to the podcast, Alejandro. I'm so excited to have you. I haven't seen you since I was probably 10. So it's good to reconnect and have you on the podcast. Welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you so much, Gina. Appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. So first question I ask everybody, if you were 18, graduating from high school, what advice would you give yourself?
I think if I were 18 and I had to go out into the world and choose a path right now, I would try to get into something that everybody wants. I think I've always followed that same path. I would try to see what themes I keep hearing all the time, what industries continue to come up, and then I would explore it as a first. You might not end up in that space, but it's a good start. So if you keep hearing a lot about AI, for example, then get into something AI related. If you hear something about solar energy, then I will get something into solar energy. But something that's going to have good opportunities in the future, and then you're going to hopefully meet somebody that's going to guide you in the process. You don't want to go into a dead industry. You don't want to go into something that's going to be, expiring, coal industry, or you don't want to go into something that might not have any application in the future. So right now, I think AI seems to be the future. I think for anybody that's, especially if you're a teenager and you're using computers, you've seen how everything seems to be getting automated, and I think those that can utilize machines are going to have opportunities in the future. And if you're not with the times, then it's going to be a little harder. And if all fails, go to the Army.
So true. That's so true. Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's what a lot of our counterparts did as well. Hey, all else failed, go to military or college. To be honest,
Right. That
those
was
are the
my
two.
first choice. I mean, I'm very happy. I mean, so it's interesting how some people see it as a negative thing that, people that join the army are people that just didn't know what to do with their lives and they had nothing better to do.
Yeah.
But I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think that's a beautiful adventure that you get into afterwards. And obviously the places that it takes you are
Very
a lot
true.
more important than perhaps some of the jobs that you'll have.
Yeah, exactly. And the people you meet along the way, it's amazing.
Oh man,
Yeah.
it's incredible.
Yeah. So tell me about your life from the time you were born until now. How did you get there, and what happened?
Right. So I was born in Mississippi. My father was learning how to fly. My dad went to San Antonio first from Spain as an international student. So he was in San Antonio where he learned how to speak a little bit of English. And then he was
cool.
stationed in Meridian, Mississippi. I was born there while he was learning how to fly. And then he moved to Pensacola where he finished his training, I guess. And then I went to Rota Naval Station where I was there for a few years. And then I began the bouncing around. I mean, I became conscious at that age, and the 3 or 4. And so I lived in 4 or 5 different places in Spain. Then I went to Newport, Rhode Island for my dad, doing a work college, Canary Islands, Saragossa. Then I went to Belgium, where I went to high school. And then that's kind of sort of where my life got figured out. I got in touch with incredible teachers from the Dodge schools, from Department of Defense schools that were able to guide me into sort of what path I would be sort of good at in life. And then based on that, I made the decision to go to the military academy. And so from there, I joined the army, and then, the rest is history.
Wow. So during that time of because you said around 3 or 4, you were very aware of you're moving a lot. How was there any move that was really difficult, or were all the moves just kind of oh, this is life, this is what the normal is for me?
Yeah, I think when you're younger, you don't care. I think it's maybe a little bit annoying because you're fixating on little trivial things, like I want my bed or I want this, or you don't want to do little things. But the hardest move was my last move to Belgium because I was a teenager. And teenage moves are the hardest ones. You got your friends in high school, you're playing sports, it's very difficult to be in your own skin when you're a teenager. And then you got to go to Belgium, and that was a very, very, very difficult move. But I think that was probably the most incredible assignment or a place that I've ever been to in my entire life.
Yeah.
Just because now that I'm older, I realize how unique it was to go to Belgium, to be able to go to a high school where you have kids from all over the world, and there's really nothing else to do.
Exactly.
But just hang out with people from different places around the world. So incredible experience. But Belgium was the hardest move. Every single time you rip a kid apart when he's 14 years old and he's got a girlfriend, it's very messy.
Yeah, I'm sure. So how did you adapt to the change?
So I think American culture is probably the most welcoming culture in the world, in the sense that Americans don't really care so much about you having an accent or you being different. I think if you're from Italy, then you better act Italian. You better dress like an Italian. You better talk about Italian things. If you're from Spain, the same thing. But if you're Americans just care about what's entertaining and what's fun. Wow. So for me, it was really fun.
That's an interesting take.
Yeah. But for me, it was incredible because I was like, wow, American culture is so captivating. It's so interesting. You start learning how to speak English, first of all. So that part is very intriguing, especially if you embrace it. I thought I embraced it. I think I've mastered the language over the years. But I thought one of the most amazing things was the school system, meaning I had never gone to an American school where you don't have a classroom. You have classes that you go to, and you have your own locker. That was something that I didn't grow up with. Okay. And then I love the fact that Americans split sports, so you can do 3 sports as opposed to just playing one in a club outside of your school. So in Europe, when you grow up, if you want to play a sport, you have to do it outside of the school. The schools don't offer sports. So if you want to swim, you got to swim. If you want to play soccer, that's all you can do is play soccer. And I think the overwhelming majority of kids don't play any sports because it's so complicated and logistically difficult for the parents. But at Shape, it was right there. So you just stayed a little bit after school, and I played football. I played basketball, and yeah, it was incredible. You start traveling everywhere. It's a very fast-paced life, so you don't really have time to sulk and to think about your feelings. You just completely being thrown into new different things. Hey, everybody has to get ready for the SATs. Everybody has to get ready for a test. Hey, these are the new opportunities that you have in 2 years. Everybody has a lot of foresight, as to what are the challenges you have up ahead. And so for me, it was very fun to sort of enjoy the ride. And maybe I say that now. Maybe when I was going through it, it was not as easy. But now, now looking back, I'd say, wow, it was a period of my life where I didn't really think much about adapting. I was just reacting to all the things that were thrown in my way.
Yeah, I get you. Yeah, sometimes like you have to get through whatever you're going through to see like, oh, there were good times in that, and it was actually more beneficial than it was harmful to you in a way, and you get a lot of lessons and memories.
I think right after Shape, I would have told you that it was the worst place ever because the weather was terrible. It was very isolated. And I think everybody wants to be in high school in a place that you feel like you belong to. But now looking back, I say, yeah, I belong. I actually, that's where I'm from. I'm from Shape. That's who I am. And it shaped me for the rest of my life. It's given me an extremely open mind. It has allowed me to travel the world. And, I have a different perspective now because I went to that school. So very, very fun, even though I left Spain, cursing by my parents, for taking me out of my comfort zone.
Hey, sometimes you have to get out of your comfort zone to, in order to figure things out. So what was that the same thing when you got into the military, kind of like getting out of your comfort zone because you're going from being a military brat to actually being the soldier?
Yeah, no, I thought it was the opposite. I thought, I don't know what it's like to live outside of a military base. I felt very uneasy being outside of the safety net of the government. I felt that I didn't grow up in a household where my dad would get fired or he would be laid off. I don't know what that's like. But I know it's very difficult. I mean, now that I live in Miami, which is the exact opposite, I understand what it's like when there's a financial crisis and a third of the city loses their job. Yeah. And, kids can't afford to go to school anymore and they have to go to public school and, dad has to sell the house and the cars. But I think when you're in the military, you never experience those things. You have an incredible safety net. And so I didn't feel brave enough to leave that safety net. And I've always been really comfortable with the military, with the food, DFAC, PX, NEX, the roads, MPs, the military ID, the rules, driving slow everywhere. So, for me, the military was the easy transition. And, I felt that maybe the hardest part was leaving Europe and leaving my parents' house and going to a new continent and starting a new journey in a new country. That was a little more shocking. But Shape was a very good transition because it was an American high school. And so it made it a lot easier for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely relate to what you were saying. Like for me, I've been connected to the military basically ever since I left, other than like college, those 4 years I went. But I worked at the CYS for a minute. And then I worked for the VA for a minute. And now like I'm working again for the military as a contracting specialist. So you can really stay in your comfort zone when you continue to transition through life. So what was your favorite part about being in the Army? Like what was the best?
My favorite part about being in the Army was the fact that you're always surrounded by people, that you're never alone, that you always have 30, 40 people within arm's reach every single morning at 6:30 in the morning. So somebody's going to ask you something. Yeah. Maybe it's not how are you doing, but somebody's going to ask you something. Somebody's going to ask you the time. You're going to have a social interaction with somebody. Somebody's going to ask you to pack the Texas Pete at breakfast. Somebody's going to ask you, if you want to play basketball because they need one person. I feel like those things are something that you take for granted afterwards when you leave the military, and all of a sudden you're just in the emptiness of everybody's, living busy with their lives and worried about their own things. And there's no, I mean, one of the beautiful things about the military is that everybody's the same. Everybody wears the same uniform. Everybody has the same haircut. Everybody makes roughly the same amount of money. I know that maybe for the people in the military, they think it's, there are tiers, but when you compare it to the civilian population, in Miami, there's tiers of money, but in the military, everybody's kind of the same. You're going to drive the same type of car. You're going to be able to afford the same thing, same type of vacation, same type of a life experience. So it makes it very relatable to everybody else around you. And there's a lot of value in that. You don't ever feel that the social pressure of not being able to afford the things that, the top tier of, your city can afford, or you never feel poor. You never feel rich. You just feel like everybody else. So I definitely miss that. And I like that. When you compare that to the city I live in now in Miami, which does feel like the exact opposite.
Yeah. So was the transition like outside of the military of being by yourself? Did you ever have like a hard time being by yourself, or was it just you prefer being around other people?
I prefer being around other people all the time.
Okay.
I mean, I made a really easy transition into the NFL, I guess, because the NFL is very similar. You're always with your teammates. You always have 100 people around you all the time. So that was a very easy transition. But out of the military, out of the NFL, you do miss having people around you. It's kind of lonely and boring when you go from shower. I mean, I shower by myself now. I know it seems funny, but like I've been showering with people my whole entire life, and now I shower by myself. Showering used to be a fun part where you can have a conversation with somebody. Now you're showering and you're just like, oh well, hurry up and get ready.
That is hilarious. It's funny because like I guess like military kids, you're always around military kids, and then now you went into the Army, and now and then the NFL. So how did you do mentally with that? Like, how do you transition and be like, okay, I was around all these people, now I'm alone? And in certain situations, you can think that group, it did help you, which obviously it did, but now you're alone. Does it make you feel like, can I do it alone? Do I need people around me so that I can be successful? Or is it like I can be strong on my own and then also have other people around me to help me along the way?
So I'm a little biased because I just watched an amazing show on Netflix. It's called 100 Years of Solitude. It's a book that we had to read in Spain. It's a very famous, extremely popular book.
Okay.
And it basically talks about how, regardless of whether you're surrounded by people or not, we live our lives in solitude. We're very, we only have the perception of life through our own eyes. And so it's impossible, even though you're sharing space, it's very difficult to share the same exact perspective on everything. So you might be surrounded by your teammates constantly all the time, but you might be the only person that thinks a certain way. And that makes you feel alone in a certain way. You might be.
You had that experience as well. Kind of.
I mean, I feel like it happens. You could be in the Army and you could be the only Spanish speaking person in the Army.
Yeah.
So that makes you feel a little bit alone. So there's a component, regardless of how surrounded you are by people, that you do feel like you're by yourself all the time. And especially when you are in the military, for example, and you're switching units all the time. So I'm surrounded by 36 people, but I just met them yesterday, and I got to deal with, getting to know each one of them and trying to fit in. So that always, in my opinion, has a very, especially when you're younger, has a huge impact on military kids, because I went to 11 different schools in my life. So 11 different times I had to walk into a classroom, being the tallest kid in the world, and have to, start over from zero. And, when you're younger, you don't realize it, that there's always going to be a funny guy. There's always going to be a mean guy. There's always going to be somebody who does not like attention being taken away from them. So if they see somebody that takes attention away from them, they become jealous, or, they antagonize you. There's going to be good assignments, good posts where you're going to go, and there's going to be terrible ones. there's going to be good years of your life where you feel like you have connected with somebody, and there's going to be years that you don't, and then you're missing that person again. So your mental health is constantly being challenged all the time, and you have to adapt, and you have to battle through everything. Even if things are doing great, something always comes up, and life throws a curveball at you, and then you just have to kind of reinvent yourself in a way that is going to allow you to accomplish the mission. So for me, I feel like that mindset has always been the ultimate goal. Everything has a purpose and a mission, and you have to accomplish the mission. What is the mission? Accomplish the mission. There's always a mission. So when you have a mission in mind, when you're driven to do a mission, then I feel like your mental health takes a step back. But when you have nothing to do and you're just dealing with your own thoughts all the time, no purpose, no goals, no nothing, then it can become very, very difficult and complicated to sort of find, what is it that your mind is going to be solving. I feel like you always have to have a problem in your hands. And when you don't have a problem in your hands and you don't know what you're doing with your life, then that's when it can become very, very dangerous. You end up in Belgium on a Saturday night or a Friday night, and there's nothing to do, and you have no one around you, and you don't know what you're going to do after high school, and you feel like you're not connecting with anybody. Then that's when it can get really scary. But if you have a goal that you want to get your SATs in line, you want to make the football team, if you want to make music, if you want to write a book, if you want to do something, then your mind is going to be actively thinking about how to solve a problem. And I feel like that's what humans are meant to do. And that's what, that's how we function. And so I've always tried to keep myself very, very busy so that I avoid having the nothingness and having to deal with my own mind and my own solitude, because I do feel like I've had times in my life where it's been really scary, and I'm like, oh my God, this is not going well right now. I'm under a lot of stress, and I'm the person inducing all the stress.
Oh wow! And what got you out of those, other than like the busyness, keeping yourself busy?
Nothing. It's just
nothing.
It's the busyness. I mean, I have family. My family's always been incredible to me. I have my brother, 2 sisters, my parents. I talk to them all the time. I guess bits and pieces of high school friends from all over the world, that I've been connecting with. And if you have, I know that a lot of people criticize social media, but if you always have, somebody that you're checking up on, or somebody writes you a message and you can engage in a quick conversation, then I guess that always helps. But for me, 1000% has always been staying busy on a project. Staying busy on a project, getting something in your head is going to make you ambitious, and it's easier to self-induce stress and be stressed out from stress than it is to be depressed. That is kind of been my mantra the whole time.
Okay. Is that how you transitioned from the Army into the NFL? Like, while you were in the Army, you were trying to figure out what was next, and the NFL was that your purpose, your idea to move into that direction?
Yes, I always had a plan, because I feel that there was a lot of reasons why I got out of the military. I think it was a transition period, in the sense that they were downsizing the Army. So there was a BRAC movement, and they were removing a lot of they removed one brigade from each division. So that downsized the pool. The war in Afghanistan was over, so I was not sure what I was going to be doing in the Army, and I just got married, and I did not want to put my kids through what I went through. I did not want to be moving every 3 years, because I felt that after you move your whole life, and you retire, then where do you go? I never liked the idea of retiring after 30 years and then having no friends or community. I feel like that is truly the only sacrifice that service members do, outside of the ones that get wounded and hurt, obviously.
Yeah.
Because the military is really fun. It's incredible. It's amazing. I wish I was deployed right now instead of being with my 4 kids right now. It driving me crazy.
Wow.
But after 40 years, what do you do? Where do you go? Where do you go when you're done with your career? Very, very. I mean, I always ask myself, if I stay in, even if I take it as far as I can, where am I going to go? Where am I going to live? I'm going to be moving every 3 years. My friends are going to be the people that I'm with. And so when I'm done, what am I going to introduce myself to people that have been in a town living together by, their whole lives? It's very difficult to become an outsider when you're in your 50s and 60s. So I felt that it would be a good time to get out. And then I think the NFL was a wishful transition. Never really thought that I was going to make it, but I gave it a chance, and it worked out.
Yeah. So you've done tours in Afghanistan, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So you said you wish you were on deployment than dealing with your 4 kids. Is it because of the chaos? Like every day is kind of different and new. There's no true purpose to it. But with your deployment, like there's a purpose. There's a mission.
Oh yes, that's a
There's like
mission. Yeah.
that. So is it that? Like is it?
Yeah, yeah. It's the routine. It's the routine. It's the fact that you remove so many stressors from your from our lives. Like there's no, you don't have to worry about food, or you don't have to worry about going anywhere. You don't have to worry about doing anything. You don't have to worry about
Yeah.
plans. You don't have to schedule the weekend. There's no difference between a Sunday and a Wednesday when you're deployed. Every day is the same. You fall into a routine. The routine is not hard.
Yeah.
It's not easy. It's kind of what you're used to doing, and after a while, you just kind of like your routine. I'm assuming. I mean, I've heard people say that when they go to prison for a while, they don't want to be out of prison. They're not looking forward to get out of prison because they've gone into a routine already, and they just feel comfortable. Like the human mind, the human adapts to whatever situation you're living in, and then once you feel comfortable, then you don't want to change it. So deployments are really, really fun. Yeah, maybe the first couple of days suck when you have to get on a plane and fly 18 hours to get to your destination. But once you get to your destination, once you see the gym, you check out the gym, you download a couple good movies, and then you have a good rotation of DFACs and whatnot. Yeah, deployments are amazing. I mean, obviously, combat deployments are different, but they're exciting. There's something really exciting about them, and like we talked about, there's always a mission, and the mission is very clear. The mission is, hey, you got to go to this house, you got to do this and that. So I feel like I mean, now hindsight, obviously, you thought we thought we had a chance of winning the war when we were doing those deployments. So now looking back, it's like, yeah, I wouldn't want to go back to do missions that are not going to ultimately lead to a success in the war.
Yeah.
But while you're deployed, you do feel like every day you have something to do that's purposeful, that matters, and you're not just working and clocking in and clocking out, getting paid by the hour. I feel like that could be a little bit dragging on the mind for sure.
Well, so how did you deal with that transition coming back each time?
That was hard. That was difficult. Coming back from deployments was the part that, especially my first deployment, that was the part that I would have to say that I understand now why there's so much emphasis on mental health, and that's because you just cannot comprehend what you just did. You're very young, and going back to the civilian life is taking you out of that routine with as much aggression, anxiety that you have. Very, very difficult. Having to deal with waiting in line, like doing simple things. When you're in the military, you're in a base and you need to get something fixed, you just go there, talk to the person. It's like, hey, and get it fixed. And then when you go into the civilian life and they treat you like you're one of 290 million people that are in the country,
that's true.
Then it does feel a little bit different. Very, very difficult to explain. I don't know how dark you want to get into.
No, go as much as you want to share, because I do believe your story is going to help somebody. But I mean, it's your story. Share as much as you want.
So I thought, from a mental health standpoint, I mean, I do remember. I mean, obviously, it's very difficult to replicate, but I did make certain mental notes, certain things that I kind of figured out when I got to Afghanistan. I was at first, it's very scary because everybody loves the idea of becoming an infantryman. Everybody loves, I mean, how many people pay to watch war movies? How many kids spend all day playing video games, war video games? There's something attractive about being a warrior. Everybody loves to be a warrior. They love the idea of, conquering your fears and being the bravest, the strongest, especially in the man world is like, wow, that's all I saw myself doing. It's like, I have to be a soldier. But once you're there, the bullets are flying, is not that much fun anymore. It's not, once you realize that, oh wow, yeah, you could die in all these missions. There's real lives that are at stake here. It becomes very intimidating. So I do remember sort of having a talk with myself and saying, all right, you got to get over this. You cannot go out there with any fear when you're doing missions. You cannot be slow on your feet. You can never have a mental block. You can never panic or just, sort of like stare into nothingness because you're scared. So let's reconcile the things that you're scared about. Let's write them down, And so in the specific area that I was in,
Can I ask you a question real quick?
Yeah.
How old were you on your first employment?
21, 22.
Wow.
22, 23.
Wow.
Yeah, so I graduated when I was 21, then I did a year of training. And then, so between 21 and 22.
Wow.
So I sat down and I said, okay, I can die from an explosion. That would be very quick. If I step on a bomb and I blow up on a vehicle, like a massive bomb, that would be a very instant death. I can get shot. If I get shot in the head, is over. If I get shot in my body and I bleed out, hopefully a doctor can give me morphine and then I won't feel anything. I knew that the medic carried a lollipop with morphine in it. We all knew that the doc was carrying something, some drugs that will just numb you. And then the worst thing that can happen is that I do survive, and then I got to live the rest of my life with injuries. That's how I made up my mind.
Wow.
I said, okay, those are the three things that can happen. Three things that can happen. The three ways to die here. So I said, all right, yeah, I can rationalize each death, and I can see that it's not going to be that bad because it's either going to be really quick or I'm going to have a solution for it. I'm always very close to the doc because I'm the platoon leader, so that's how I rationalize it. But then you get back from Afghanistan, and now you start trying to rationalize how you're going to die in civilian life, and it gives you a lot of anxiety. You start thinking, am I going to die of a car accident? Am I going to die of a plane crash? Am I going to die of cancer? When am I going to die? What type of cancer? And how is cancer? It's like 5-6 year cancer battle. Is it a heart attack? Oh, heart attack. Yeah, I'll sign up for a heart attack. It's easy, you know what I mean? And then you're done. But it's very difficult once you reconcile with death when you're 22 and then you're back into civilian life. It does give you a lot. It gave me a lot of anxiety. The death component gave me a lot of anxiety. It's very weird, the fact that we are aware of our own death. Death is something that you have to deal with in the military. And death is something that most people in civilian life, they don't really think about it. It's just, why would you obsess over that? So giving somebody the calmness of a 92-year-old man with terminal cancer who's assumed their fate, and then put him into a situation where now you're 22 again, and then you're living out in society, created a lot of stress.
Hey guys, we are on air. I know, right? So cool to have this. But I interrupt this podcast to ask you guys to please follow us on all of our social media sites. We have Instagram, YouTube, the podcast on anywhere you get your podcast. And please share and like this episode and comment if this episode has affected you in any way. Because the more you comment, the more you like, the more you share, the more people we reach. And the more people we reach means the more the story of mental health and military brats change. So please go and follow us on all of these websites, and please share it with whoever and whomever you believe these stories will help change. Because I know that all of these stories thus far has already helped change my life. So again, I thank you guys for watching, and please like, share, comment, and follow us on all of our social media platforms.
In my life, because I did not know I was at peace with death, and then I was at 22, and then I was not at peace again. So that morbid component of deployment was something that I do remember being stressful. And then the second part is the fact that now you no longer have a mission anymore. So you no longer have a purpose. You're out in space again. Don't know when you're going to deploy it again. You realize that the world has been going on. Yep. You were gone for a year. I can't remember celebrating my birthday at 22, 23 or whatever I was there. I don't remember that year of my life, but everybody else did. Everybody else was going out. Everybody else was having fun. They thought about you maybe once or twice when they saw the news, but nobody, they're happy to see you for 5 seconds and then that's it. Everybody kept their lives, and so it's not like they're making plans with you anymore. So
yeah.
the reintegration is always a little bit challenging. Like you don't know where to pick it up from. When you're rekindling relationships, or you're trying to
And
figure out.
you come back as a new person as well, so they have to learn about you again, as well as you
Right,
learning
right,
about
right,
them
right.
again.
Right, exactly. At first, it's cool. The first night, you tell them all the stories, you tell them where you were, you show them the pictures, and they're like, "Oh, wow, 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 wow!" But then the next day, what? And what do you do the next day? Then the next day, they got tired of, they don't want to hear the stories again. They don't want to sit there, and they don't want to hear your war stories day after day after day. Now you have to learn how to add value. It's complicated. So my first time was very, very difficult. It was so difficult that I said, the only way that I'm going to be able to deal with this is if I go back again. So I said,
a lot of people say that.
What's the fastest way that I can go back to Afghanistan? I don't want to be here. I don't like this. Take me back to Afghanistan, please. I wish there was a way to stay in Afghanistan until I feel like I can come out. I'm ready now to come back to society. And I think back in Vietnam, some people used to do that. I mean, I wish I could have done a deployment and then say, all right, I'm going to stay a military contractor, in Afghanistan until I feel like I'm ready to go back. But I'm not ready to go back right now. Even though it was really cool to come back and have the whole process of being welcomed by your loved ones and stuff. Maybe there was part of me that did not want to leave when I was there. So coming back, my first time was very difficult. My second time was a lot easier, and then my third time was more like, I don't want to ever go back to Afghanistan. I don't think it's worth dying on these hills, for this mission. So, hopefully I'll have to go back.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I've heard stories like that, like people are like, as soon as they come back, they're ready to go right back in, and everybody always questions like, why, what's the reason? And we always knew, like, of course, like there's a purpose, but the whole other component that you brought up, which is like death, like how it can be obsessive. And I can now understand how PTSD gets to the level that it gets to for some soldiers once they like come back. It's amazing. And thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for, letting people into that part of your life. So with that first deployment, how did you integrate? Did you go to therapy? Was therapy offered during that time? Or was it just like, all right, sign the papers and go straight back for my second type?
No, they offer you everything. You have all the, but there's something dangerous about therapy. There's something dangerous about the mentality of being labeled as a soldier with PTSD, because I don't think we understand when to turn it. I mean, it's very difficult to diagnose, and it's very difficult to believe what's real and what's not. So you come back, you're struggling a little bit with reintegration, but you don't know if you have PTSD. So if you go, I mean, if you start believing that you have PTSD because people tell you have PTSD, then you could end up having a PTSD, I guess. I don't know. I saw it as get back. I'm with my unit. You do the SRC, the Soldier Readiness Center, or reverse SRC. So you get all your shots, you get everything. When you get back, you're obviously very happy to be back. Yeah. For the first few weeks, you're looking forward to things. So I was looking forward to fishing. I was like, I can't wait to go fishing at Fort Drum. I'm going to go fishing all day.
Yeah.
So I got my fishing out of the way. You do have moments where they're very isolated moments. Like I remember in the state of New York, you have to pass an inspection on your vehicle. Every single year, you have to pass an inspection. So when I got back, I had to go get my inspection done. And when I went to get my inspection done, they told me that the female receptor of my seatbelt was broken. It was broken, so I had to get it fixed. So I went to a dealership to get it fixed because I didn't know anything better. I was like, I don't know why I'm going to take this thing. I'll take it to the dealership. Yeah. So I took it to the dealership, and when I went to talk to the person, they said, yeah, it's about $430 to get your thing fixed. And I was like, man, for this piece, $430? Yeah, we have to take the whole system out, la, 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 la. And so I was like, I guess I have no choice. So I just sat down in the chair, And I'm thinking, man, $430. This is back in the day when 2012, when you can start accessing phones on the internet to Google things. And so I Google how much was a female receptor piece. And I saw that it was not that expensive. I said, man, it's only a $29 piece. So I got up from the dealership. I went across the street to a no brand car garage. And I asked the person, how much would it cost to change the female receptor on on my truck? And they told me they would charge me about $70. And the guy said, hey, you just got back from the place, so we'll do it for free. And so when I had that information all with me, I went back to the dealership, which is only like 100 yards away. So it's like typical strip that they have outside of Fort Drum, where they have dealership, punch shop, dealership, Walmart.
Yeah.
And I went back to the dealership, and I couldn't deal with a situation, because you will never have that situation in the military. You will never have a situation in the military where somebody's trying to take advantage of you monetarily for something like that. That's like a problem with the real world. If you talk to anybody that is not from the military, said you just got to shop around. You just can't, you can't, a dealership is going to charge you more money. That's just how it is. Everybody knows that, but not a 22-year-old kid who just got back from Afghanistan. He doesn't know that.
Yeah.
So somebody's trying to take advantage of you. How do I react to somebody taking advantage of me as a 22-year-old kid who's a combat veteran who just got done with 13 months in Kandahar, Afghanistan? I exploded on the dealership. I went ballistic. I went nuts. I went crazy because I did not know how to deal with that situation. There was no chain of command at that moment. I thought it was me against the world. When you're in the military, then somebody's going to tell you, somebody's going to direct you to go somewhere. It's not going to cost you any money. And there's a procedure. There's a book. It's like you got to go follow step A, B to C. That's it. That's how you do it. There's no shortcuts around it. There's no nothing. Everybody does it the same exact way. Yeah. But dealing with something as simple as passing a vehicle inspection became such a difficult situation for me that I went crazy. And then I was like, okay, that moment I said, it's not normal to start throwing and tossing things around at a dealership. Getting the call cops, the cops call and not be able to deal with like something as easy as getting your vehicle inspected. So at that moment, I did feel that there was something wrong. But I guess maybe that's the day that I said, okay, you know what? I'm going to go back to Afghanistan. I'm going to apply to the Ranger Regiment. And then I had that goal in my mind. I said, I'm going to Ranger Regiment, whatever. They'll take care of itself. I'm going back to Afghanistan. And at that moment, I could care less if they rip me off again on the next place. I could care less if I couldn't deal with the situations, because my mind now was solely focused on passing the Ranger assessment and selection process. And that's why I said that you always have to have a goal in your mind. If I had nothing in my mind, if I was just cruising through life and I would have been left off like that, then it would have been a very, very ugly, very, very difficult transition for me. I would have not made it out of it. I would have gotten arrested. I would have dealt constantly thinking that the world is against me. The world is against me, that I have a problem. And so that's why, dealing with PTSD is complicated, because I don't know what it is. I can't define it. I don't think anybody can. But if you start believing that you have it and that you have nothing else to sort of fall back on and no way out of dealing with these circumstances, then you could get sucked up on a very difficult spiral of, your own head thinking that the world is against you. And the world is not against me. It's just a dealership. Everybody knows that. It's just a dealership. That's
interesting, because now it's like with PTSD, it's more of, it's broader than what I actually thought in my mind, one. And then two, it's possible that, like you said, people might be being misdiagnosed, and it's honestly just kind of been like, hey, like, you're back. But what you think is your expectation of what the world is not it at all.
Right.
And so it's like, how do you reacclimate all these soldiers that are coming back for more into this world that they're not used to, getting everything done for them and them just, dodging bullets every day, where now it's like they have to do all these things for themselves.
Exactly. That's 100%.
It's so complicated.
The greatest comparison, I think, is jail. It's going like a lot of people say, I'm going to make a crime because I want to go back to jail. I mean, reintegration from prison, I think, is a very, very comparable scenario. So you go serve in prison for 5 years for whatever circumstances you have in life, and then you get out and it's not the same, and you don't know how to deal with things, and you think it's prison rules, but it's not prison rules anymore. It's regular rules. And then maybe you get so frustrated that you say, like, whatever. I know, you know what? I always have, like, I know I can survive in prison. I know I can survive in Afghanistan. Maybe I can survive at Fort Drum, New York, because I can't get a vehicle inspection. So maybe I'll just go back to jail. So I think it's a very, very similar circle. But I don't know if there's anything that you can do. That's just what life is. Yeah. Life is learning, and I guess for me that was the learning piece, that hey, these are your options. You got this and you got that. So choose it. You always have to own up to all your actions and all your responsibilities. You own up to everything, and then try to figure out what's best. At the end of the day, I got lucky. I got lucky that I have amazing family and friends, that I went to Shape American High School, that I've grown up in the military, that have an open mind, and I can maybe try new things, and get excited about things very easy. I get excited about everything. You tell me, hey, I got this thing. Oh yeah, so I was interested. Let's But some people, you can see how one of our 100 does not match, and you can have a lot of issues, a lot of trouble. And we had a lot of suicide when we got back from my unit as well. So that was a little scary, because you don't know if, that person seemed normal and he killed himself, It's like, oh man, am I one of those people? Am I going to kill? Could I end up killing myself?
Yeah.
And you don't know. So you start really overthinking everything a little bit. And so it does become a little scary from that sense, because you're constantly wondering who you are, and if you're wondering who you are, and if you're gonna have the tools to make it out into regular civilian life.
Yeah, absolutely, so true in so many ways. Because even as a military brat, I've had a couple friends who've committed suicide, because that transition between being a military brat to coming into civilian life, it's very hard for us, just because military, like, everything was told, like, this is how you do it, this is this, and then you kind of come into civilian life, and it can just be a hard transition to be like, oh, this is the real world. Like, this isn't where everything's functioning in this exact way, and different things can hit you and stuff like that. And sometimes you can feel very alone in that. And when you feel very alone in that, you're scared to tell somebody how you feel, because I know for us growing up, mental health wasn't very much talked about. And then the whole thing of, like, we kept things to ourselves. Like, our parents are doing the mission, they have other things to focus on, and so we have to kind of keep this in. And we never really learned how to talk to our friends and let them know how we were feeling and different things like that. So when you transition out, it's like, oh, I'm still by myself. Not, I had people around me that kind of understood me, but now I have people around me that don't understand me, but I'm still kind of hanging out with them because I need people to hang out with.
Right.
And you continue to just hold it in, and sometimes, you can lose that battle.
I'm still hanging out. Look, I spend my best friend here is Joe Putman. He was in Shape American High School with me. I hang out. I mostly most of my friends were in the military with me.
Yeah.
Because I don't think I have a lot of friends that are not in the military, but my closest friends have to all be in the military, because I cannot. I don't think they would ever understand what it's like to go through what you go through with the different things you value. And I think the material world is something that you don't value as a military brat, because you don't care. You just, nice cars. Nobody has nice cars in the military. Having a nice car is maybe having a lift kit, or leather seats, but not having a very expensive car. Who wants to have an expensive car?
I don't know. Nowadays in the military, a lot of people, I've been seeing some cars out there, but they're mostly retired now. Like, like they have the money to spend on their, selves and stuff like that.
Right. But it's not like the, Mercedes AMG or the bougie cars that I see, or the yachts or the boats. It's not the or clothes. You wear Walmart. Everybody wears Walmart clothes, when you're in the military. There's or PX clothes. Whatever everybody's got the PX, everybody's going to be wearing the same shoes. It's very, very easy to to feel that you're with everybody else. But when you're outside of the military life, then no, that's when you feel lonely, because you can't relate to a lot of people, and you don't know the rules of society. It does get sketchy for sure.
Exactly. So with your last deployment and coming back, did you just hit the ground running and being like, all right, I'm going NFL, bang? And was that the transition that really helped you back into civilian life?
So leaving the military was the hardest thing that I've ever done, for sure. But it was not as stressful, and it was not as I want to say violent, but it was not as emotional. And when you see yourself every day in uniform, every single day, in the morning, tie my boots, put my uniform on, American flag, combat patch, blah, 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 rank, blah, hat. And you see yourself and you like yourself seeing the uniform. You just maybe you take it for granted.
Yeah.
And then one day you don't wear that. One day you just wear a regular Under Armour t-shirt or a Nike t-shirt. And you don't feel anything when you see yourself in the mirror anymore. You feel nothing. You feel like you're not special. You're just another guy. And you know that there's a world out there of people wearing the military uniform that are going out on missions, that are seeing each other in the morning, that are they don't care if it's Friday, Monday, or whatever. They just know that the next day they have off. They're drinking that night, and they're going out in Savannah, Georgia, and they're going to the bars, and they're going to the same bar every single day. You're not part of anything anymore. You're just part of yourself. It's you, and then that's it. But when you're in the military, you're part of a unit, and so that's why it's fun to always be around people. So the NFL was a transition that I thought would allow me to pay for business school so that I could get educated and then I could get a regular job, because I did not have a GI Bill. So because I didn't have a GI Bill, I did not know how I was going to pay for school, because school was, getting a loan and getting educated seemed like the most daunting task in the world. Wow, I got to come up with $125,000. How am I going to come up with that much money? And then what am I going to do afterwards? Why can't I just sign up, show up at 6 a.m, and then that's it? No. You got to fill out paperwork. You got to do this and that. You got to select it and process this. It seemed very, very intimidating. So I thought if I went to the NFL, I could make enough money to pay for business school. So the transition was easy in the sense that my mind was focused on making a football team, and I was consumed by that. But it was difficult in the sense that I did not see myself as somebody that I was proud of anymore. And I was not belonging to any group, because I never felt that I was part of a team, because I kept getting cut from every team. But I definitely had my high moments, in terms of making a team, obviously, and playing football and experiencing the whole world of entertainment and the NFL and, making money and all those things. But then I definitely had the low moments of not feeling proud of who I was. It's like, man, I'm wearing these tight pants on national television, and I'm hitting myself against another human being, and people are clapping when I hit my head, they clap, and when I make a mistake, they boo me. So I was not very proud of being an NFL player, and I was giving up something that was making me very, very, very proud. And so my identity was gone in that sense, and I always felt that I was like a regret, a thing that I would regret. That I would always feel that I would regret leaving the military. So the hardest transition by far. Now, when I left the NFL, which is the third transition, I guess, then that became very easy. Then I became like, okay, I get it. I don't belong to the NFL no more. Nobody's hitting me up on the weekends anymore for tickets. Nobody cares if they see my name on the news. Nobody cares anymore if nobody wants my advice on who's going to win the game. Got it. It's now you just got to reinvent yourself, find something else to do, and then move on with life. So everything is a process. Everything has those same components of identity, of battling your own head, and like I said from the very beginning, you got to find something to just take up your mind and then go with it. So
I understand that. Definitely understand that. It's like you reinvent yourself every single transition.
Every
Like just
transition.
every single transition.
Yes.
I do have one question because I do remember when the article came out when you were the only one standing out for the national anthem. And I completely understand the reason why you did it and completely respect because as a military personnel, it's respecting those who have fallen. How did you deal with that though? Was there any like pushback or fallout when you were the only one standing out there and all the other Steelers were in the locker room during the national anthem? Was there any like just pushback or mean
Oh yeah.
comments, you know?
Yeah. That was a lot. Yeah, it was not it was not an easy moment. It was not like a highlight. It was not like a moment that I was like, I don't know.
Yeah, for you, yeah. No, it was just what
No,
you
no,
felt
not at
like was
all.
right, yeah.
I mean, I felt that it was a moment where everybody was very, everybody was trying, everybody was trying to do what's right.
Mm-hmm.
Every single person was trying. There was not a single person that I thought was doing something that was hurtful.
Yeah, no.
Nobody on the football team was trying to hurt anybody. There was not a single
Exactly.
player that said, "I want to disrespect the veterans on the team. I don't
Mm-mm.
want." I don't think anybody has anything against veterans. Especially in the NFL,
Yeah,
nobody. Veterans are, veterans are pushed down your throat all the time to love them. And nobody.
yeah,
Nobody's I mean, yeah, America's not perfect, but nobody's nobody's angry with America in the sense that they're gonna, you know, it's it was a very difficult moment. But when the media backlash highlighted a
mm-hmm.
player for doing something, and they got half the country buying their jersey, or his jersey,
Mm-hmm.
my jersey, because they were
Mm-hmm.
so enamored with the picture, then it did create a lot of confrontation or tension in the locker room. But
Mm.
uh, my perspective or my thought process was this was an accident. This was never supposed to be like this.
Yeah,
There's no division between anybody in the locker room in the sense of, I mean, obviously everybody believes in their own things,
yeah,
political parties, ideology, whatever. But me as a military, as if like I never wanted to represent the military because, first of all, not one person represents the military. There's a lot of people in the military that want to do whatever they want and
yeah,
I would never tell the nation what you should do with with your time,
yeah,
and I don't want to be the spokesperson for all military personnel at
yeah,
all. I don't want to speak I don't want to talk about the president. I don't want to talk about anybody.
yeah,
That was sort of my idea that. The military has to remain neutral on civilian, like the military cannot get involved in civilian affairs because
yeah.
that makes it very dangerous. When the
Mm-hmm.
military takes part of one side of the political aisle. I've lived that in Spain. In Spain, I lived a dictatorship of 40 years, a military dictatorship. My parents grew up under a military dictatorship, so
Wow.
I've always been very sensitive, and I've always admired the fact that in America, um, patriotism is not being nationalistic in the sense that
Mm-hmm.
we think we were better than everybody else. It's being thankful and grateful that we live in this nation. So I understood that it was a very difficult process, for a lot of people to deal
Mm-hmm.
with the political climate. I had really, really good friends on the team, amazing
Mm-hmm.
friends on the team. I had a really good relationship with the coaches. I was disappointed in certain aspects, like the fact that I was put in that position.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, but no, I don't think anybody could anticipate it. That the the the
The media
image,
would spin it in that
yeah,
way. Yeah.
the media was spinning that way.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, very. I mean, and for the rest of my life now, I got to live with that. I got to live with the fact that people say, like,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh, you're the guy that does that. Oh, you're the guy that does that. Oh, yeah." And in the end, it's like, dude, I'm a kid from Shape. I'm a kid from Europe.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know how I feel about many different things.
Anything. Yeah.
But because of that, because I'm a kid from outside the United States, the flag and America to me and the military have been extremely good to me, extremely, extremely good for me. So I can never compromise on doing that. The problem is that the team, the team did not understand at the time the sense of urgency that I had to not, I want to say hide to boycott something, especially a Soldier Stadium, So there was a lot of confusion in the locker room during that time. A lot of my teammates did not know that. It's not like I broke ranks. It's like I told everybody, I was like, I'm not staying in the locker room. I'm not staying in the locker room. But you have a team that's 100 people. So not everybody understands what everybody's going to do. So when I told the leadership that I was going to be out there, they told me that I was going to be there with me, but they didn't. And so at the end, it was like a very confusing time, and it became an image. It taught me a lot about how the media cycle works, and it taught me a lot about how sometimes, especially in American culture, British culture, Anglo-Saxon culture, you want to pump up people. You want to make them your champions. You want to make them, and it's like that's our champion. That's gonna show us the way. That's an example. But for me, I was like, I'm very grateful to live in this country. I'm not gonna change anything. Don't look at me to change the world, for a gesture. That's not going to change anything. You getting up to work in the morning, you making up your own destiny. That's going to change your life. Not somebody, saluting the flag, because I served and now I'm playing in the NFL, playing football. So I don't know. To be quite honest, it's a period of my life that I'm almost blocked out. So for me to rekindle, these things is very difficult, and I have I have no clear answers. But it was a very stressful moment both times. It has happened twice. It happened twice in the locker room. But what I would have to say is, at the end of the day, I understand that the NFL was different back then. That it was a completely different era for all of us. The 2016s to 2020s was a very emotional, ideological period of polarization, and unfortunately, I was a character in during those 4 years that I had to deal with the national anthem, and how I responded after that, how I reacted. I don't overthink it. I could care less. I try to do what's right. I try to do what's best, but in the end, it's it's a struggle for all of us.
It is.
Every single person is struggling in their own heads. And so I just hope that, that, like I said earlier, that we can be grateful to live in this country, and that we can have the best opportunities to fulfill our pursuit of happiness.
Definitely. Yeah, I completely get you. I understand. Yeah, that time was a difficult time, just because of the climate of everything that was going on in the world at the time. But for me, the national anthem and the American flag, it goes beyond just the statement that was trying to be said at the time. And so, I would stand for the national anthem because of, the history of the military in, my life. And because I know that a lot of just the soldiers who sacrificed their lives, but also not even just sacrifice your life in terms of death, but just in terms of serving. You spend years away from your family, years, and that changes your life, period. Regardless of who you are or what you did in the military, it changes your life in so many different ways. And for me, it was just a respect thing of respecting those who fell before, who worked before, who did everything for me to be able to even stand and, celebrate my freedoms. And then at the same time, I was like, if you sit down, I completely understand that too, because of the political climate, because of everything that was going on. I completely understand that too. So it was more of just I think at the time we didn't know how to hear each other and respect each other enough to understand our reasons why. And it was a lot of, things being pushed down people's throats, and this is how you should think. And the media, unfortunately, used you as one of the reasons of this is why you should think the way you do. And I'm sorry the media did that to you, because, America's been good to you.
Yeah, I know for sure. But you got to think about, I'm in the world of entertainment. At the end of the day, I did not understand it when I was a player, but now I do. Now that I'm retired, it's I was an entertainer. You know what I mean? I can't complain about the media highlighting me. I'm getting paid millions of dollars. Why am I going to complain about how the media portrays me? They can do whatever they want with me.
Yeah,
that's the price to pay.
Unfortunate, yeah.
But it is weird to look back at that time and say, man, it was just like you said, that we couldn't talk to each other. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, I was like, wow, it's crazy. Like we love, in the locker room, there was no division whatsoever. We love each other. Everybody's like, there was absolutely zero. There was great conversations, actually. Amazing. Everybody was learning so much, especially when you're in a locker room where, you got people from different places, different parts of the world, different socioeconomic backgrounds. You were learning so much about how people are feeling. Those were happening in the NFL. I think that was the unfortunate part. The unfortunate part is that someone like me was not showing the world that those conversations were taking place. And someone like me was used to divide the nation and the country even further, as opposed to, and maybe that's what, I mean, hindsight, everything could be portrayed in a million ways. And I should have, would have, I tend not to dwell, and I tend not to think about the past in that sense. And so that's why maybe I don't have the perfect answers for your questions today, but
no, you've been doing really well. They're great answers. Don't underestimate them.
But I thought now that it's coming back to me, when I look back at that era, it was incredible, amazing conversations with my teammates, amazing conversations, and learning so much. And like I said earlier, everybody lives in their own reality, and we're living in solitude in our lives, regardless of how surrounded we are with people. So the messages ultimately, I think, were passed on, whether it was easy or whether it was complicated, whether it was hard. I think everybody understood all the messages from both parties. I think players understood what was happening in our country, and players understood that the American flag represents the fact that we all have individual lives, and then our point of where we meet each other is the flag that represents the United States of America, a country that is unique in the ways that has made it, in my opinion, and in all of our opinions, the greatest country that's ever existed. And because of that, we're so happy to live in it. And because we live in this country, that we can voice our opinions. And because we live in this country, we can make it better. And we might not always agree on how we make it better, but we have the right to do it. And so it was it was especially for the NFL. The NFL. I don't know. I don't think if the NFL enjoyed being the center of attention in that sense. COVID was also kind of weird in that same sense as well. Where now looking back at COVID, it's a little stressful. To think about COVID. So, but no, for sure. I mean, overall, not things that life throws at you. You think you're ready for everything, and then boom, all of a sudden, now national anthem controversy. Boom, get in there, go react, go talk to the media, go figure out. Nobody can solve an issue now. They think that you got the answer somehow. It's like,
it's crazy. Yeah, I think if we stop using our mouths so much and use our ears a little bit more, I think we can learn a lot more from each other.
Right.
A lot more. Yeah.
But people want to find an enemy. People want to find something. I mean, you talked about earlier, we talked about having a mission earlier, how I do think that humans do have this, think about like China, like how much Americans obsess over China. Like China's coming at us. China. Why is it China? I feel like we always have to have we almost self-induce ourselves into having an enemy. If we have an enemy, then we become, we get into groups, and then we get into tribes. Then it's like, we're us and they're them, and then it's us versus them. And then that gives us a purpose and an identity. You lack an identity, join a us versus them group. You know what I mean? But unfortunately, I think that the technology in the world is evolving so fast that we're able to see it now. We're like, oh wow, you can watch a documentary about how we've been doing this for thousands and thousands of years, and now don't you feel stupid now looking back how it's so predictable that you're going to fall into us versus them mentality, and you're going to act in hopefully, speaking of the military, hopefully that helps us in the future to not go to war. Even though war is happening right now, hopefully, it prevents us from killing each other, which is the most basic thing in the world. We're sending things to the moon. We have AI that can make us any logo that we want on 2 seconds, but we still gotta, kill each other because we cannot hear or reach an agreement with sheer understanding.
Yeah, it's really weird. Yeah, like how the world is, and looking at the world, and even in the United States, it's a lot of them versus us right now in different aspects. And it's like, well, when are we going to be like, it's all of us or none of us, right?
Right.
Like we will fail if we continue to do this versus this. So it's an interesting climate, and we'll see how it goes. But I hope that within this, these next couple of years, we start listening to each other and figuring out how we can have common ground and make the world better as best as you can for everyone instead of just individuals.
I think we somewhat did. I think everybody got the lesson that fighting doesn't lead you to anything. That one way or another, you're not gonna advance. What are you gonna do? You're gonna start burning things. You're gonna start chanting things. You're gonna start storming things. Like why? What's that gonna get you? You know what I mean? You gotta get to work every morning, and then you gotta you gotta figure out your job. You gotta get creative. You gotta work hard. There's nothing else. You know what I mean? Those are the two things in life. You gotta get up in the morning, come up with ideas, and then work hard. That's it. And then hopefully you got some friends around you, and you can develop some relationships that can help you accomplish those two things. Come up with things, and then work on those things. That's it. There's no more secrets to life.
Exactly. So tell me, did you accomplish your goal of joining the NFL, which was, get that business degree? Did that happen?
Yeah, I did. I actually got my business degree while I was playing. I feel like as an immigrant, you always feel that they can never take education away from you. They can never take a degree from you. You have nothing. Now looking back, I think degrees are stupid. They're silly. They're like, well, why do you need a degree? Again, if you come up with an idea on your own and you work hard at it, what do you need education for?
But that was our deal back then. Our deal was boom, 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 boom. Like you need the education in order to do this.
Right.
But
because you have nothing. Yeah, I have my resume says nothing. It says I graduated from high school. That's all my resume said.
Yeah. Now it just says graduated from college and you still can't get a job.
Right. That's what I'm saying. So at the end of the day, it doesn't mean anything. So business school did teach me a little bit of that. Business school taught me that you really don't need school at all. Period. You don't need to go. So nothing. That's what business is hilarious. That's what business school at Carnegie Mellon taught me, that you don't need anything. That you can just sit down with a piece of paper, write down an idea, and if it's good enough and you feel like there's a need for that and you work hard at it, then that's as good as life is going to get for you. That's what I paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to learn. That you just need ideas and execution. That's it.
Yep.
That doesn't matter if it says that you went to Stanford, Shape, Harvard, or whatever it is that you went to. And I think it's very ironic that you have to go to business school to realize that, your graduation diploma is, hey, nothing matters, you just got to go to work. But it is a good community, and it does help build relationships. That's the one thing. The network stuff, it is pretty cool. And Carnegie Mellon was an amazing university that was my welcoming to civilian society. So learning how a dealership works and why they charge more money and why there's more competition when you're not doing it under a brand and under the insurance and la. So that was, I guess, the good outcome out of it. I learned how the world works a little bit better. And so I don't have to get frustrated and start raging when they're overcharging me for things. I understand, supply and demand a little bit better in that aspect.
Yeah, that's good. So are you doing anything in business now, or?
I guess I got into farming. My family was always into farming when they were in Spain. So I moved down to Florida, and then I started realizing that I had to do something, especially after I retired. I said, I'm going to give myself a year. Mm-hmm. I thought I could live retired. I said, yeah, man, I'm done. I made two American dreams. I moved to the United States and I made it, and then I lived in the Northeast and I retired in Florida. Like I thought it was like that's like the two American dreams. I'm in Florida, retired. But you just realize the mind needs to do something. You have to work something. You got to apply yourself. Otherwise, the brain goes numb. You just cannot. You start dealing with yourself too much. So I started looking into jobs in finance. I started looking. I love the world of banking. Fascinates me. I've always been very, very attracted by the banking world. And so I thought I was going to work in banking, I hear, but did not see myself working in finance. Did not see myself in a suit, in a nice car, driving into a high rise. Not because I couldn't do it. I just didn't see myself doing it. I just didn't see myself, because I'm a military child. I don't appreciate nice things. I don't
Yeah.
appreciate feeling that I'm at a higher floor than everybody else around me because I've worked harder. That does not incentivize me. But I do like being outside. I love being outdoors, and I love working with my hands. I love people that work really hard as well. I've been in the military. I've been playing football. I'm a laborer. I'm just a worker. I can pick up a shovel and shovel all day. And so I started getting really attracted by the world of agriculture. And so that's what I got into.
Nice. So do you like to garden and stuff? Like what type of farming are we doing here?
So I'm doing tropical fruits.
Okay.
That's the industry that my family was working. They still work over in Spain. And when I moved to Florida, I realized that Florida has a 9B climate, and 9B is subtropical. So the United States does not have a lot of subtropical agricultural areas. You have a little bit in Southern California, you have Hawaii, and then you have Southern Florida. That's it. So, and when I say South Florida, I mean south of Fort Lauderdale. So it just means that it's a climate that you will never have a freeze. You'll never have temperatures that are below 38 degrees. And so it allows you to grow tropical fruits that are mostly from the subtropical areas of Central America and Asia. And so it's been really interesting, but learning a lot. Very cool. The world of food, the industry of producing things that people eat, and the trends and cultures, especially. So I'm Spanish. I grew up eating a lot of fruits, a lot of tropical fruits. Down here in Miami, there's a lot of Caribbean people. They grew up eating a lot of fruits. Fruits are a massive, massive part of our diets. Asians, the Asian population, they eat a lot of fruits. But then there's other populations that don't eat a lot of fruits. My wife, she's Irish and Italian. She don't like papayas. Papayas. And so it's kind of interesting to continue to dive into the world of cultures and different groups of people. So same thing from shape, and understand that people have different likes. They have different tastes. And I'm in the taste of tropical fruits. Tropical fruits are my world now. And so I'm super, super passionate about it. I'm very interested into the different ideas that could come up from it. The population in the United States is changing as well. And so there are newer opportunities, and we'll see. I don't know what in which way this new path is going to take me, but it is taking up my whole entire mind. And so because of that, I do feel that I've been able to accomplish the third transition in my life out of, the military, the NFL, and out of being a military brat.
Yeah, that's nice. That's awesome. Seems like we came full circle from the beginning of the interview when you said, do the trend, and now you're into farming, you're seeing the different trends that are coming with what you're doing. So
it is a trend. I mean, I feel like AI is going to be able to do most of the things that we're doing right now. I did not understand this media, for example, like podcasting. So when I was playing, I never did. I was so I don't want to be in social media. I don't want to. But now I understand that that's actually the only thing you can contribute, because you're not going to be able to do math and do it better than a computer. You're not going to be able to do, you're not going to even design even art or music. What is music? I mean, even music now feels like it's not as good anymore, because you don't even know what's
authentic.
It's not authentic. You don't know what's real, what's not. It's crazy. So the only things that we can appreciate from each other are genuine things, And so one of the genuine things that I appreciate is when somebody works, and I don't make emails anymore. I make food. I make avocados. And so everybody can understand the value of an avocado. I don't know if I understand the value of the bazillion emails that people are sending each other in the financial world over minutia that is not really producing any value to society. So if I were to, follow my own advice, I would always say that, you want to follow the trends, that are going to be around forever. I don't know how long accountants are going to be around in the United States, lawyers, or even doctors, But I do know that food is going to be around as long as humans have to use the stomach
Yeah.
to process the food to eat.
Definitely. And there's value in what you're doing. If you send some fruit my way, my friend.
Yeah, for sure.
No, it's amazing to reconnect with you and see you again, and it's been awesome having this conversation with you. And yeah, thank you for coming on. I do have one more question.
Of course.
What's your 5-year plan? Do you have a 5-year plan? Like, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
I do have a 5-year plan, but it's super ambitious and it's so
Okay.
far out there. So it's such a full circle thing for me as well. But I don't know. I don't know if it'll come to fruition or not. I got so I'm Spanish. I came to the Americas, and it was when I first got here. I felt very. I moved to New York for college, and then I was in the military, and I was in Georgia. I was upstate New York. I was in Oklahoma. I was mostly in other states, and I remember every single time I spoke Spanish, people got really funny about it. They got really funny. Americans do not like when somebody's speaking a language they don't understand. But the further south you go, the more Spanish people speak, and it becomes very. In San Antonio, I mean, I'm sure that you're very used to it as well. It's very. I mean, so I cannot fathom now living in a place where you don't hear Spanish all the time. Or here we speak a lot of Creole. In Miami, there's a lot of people from Haiti. There's a lot of people from everywhere. You know what I mean? Jamaicans speaking patois. So I started realizing that the world is, especially down here, is shifting south, shifting towards Latin America. Maybe because of COVID, maybe because of the new era that we live in right now. I don't think that the world is a one sphere thing. I think we live in the American continent, and the American continent is kind of like ours. And I don't say ours as in the United States of America, ours. I say it as in like we are Americans. We are from this continent. We are from Mexico, Canada, Brazil, Argentina, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
So I do feel very, very connected to the American world here in Miami. And I got into farming, and farming is the pride and joy, in my opinion, of the Americas. We make the best produce and the best food in the world. The fruit and the climate and the how beautiful the Americas are. I mean, how beautiful, how crazy beautiful is Texas, is California. It's amazing how pretty it is. You go to other places of the world, they got cool cathedrals, they got great monuments. But it's not as beautiful as the United States. It's not as beautiful as the sunsets, the sunrises. And so I'm falling in love with the American continent, And I feel like it's a trend that's happening right now as well. Some of the crazy stuff that you hear on the radio now about, what Trump wants to do with this and that and that. It's kind of happening. So my 5-year plan is I want to, as a Spanish person that's coming to the United States, that's now living in Miami, Florida, I would like to see the day where one day Cuba becomes an opportunity for Americans to invest in. I feel like it's almost like a thing that hopefully I can see in my lifetime. Hopefully I can see in the next 5 years. So I wish there was something I could do. I wish there was something that I could.
Are you like planning out how to help with that? Like,
I don't know. I mean, obviously so that's a very difficult issue because a lot of people in Miami are extremely against that. But I'm European. I'm like, do you know what the Germans and the French did to each other in World War II? And then afterwards, they were like, all right, man, we're cool. You know what I mean? So like, there's a grudge between. It's very difficult to fly out of Miami airport and see people coming from La Habana, from Cuba. People from Miami go to Cuba all the time to see their family members, nonstop. It happens nonstop. So at some point, it's kind of like an awkward elephant in the room. I know there's really bad vibes, I guess, between or history between the two territories, but you gotta get over things. Like we were talking about earlier, like you gotta start listening to each other and be like, let's not get carried away here by the past and prevent it from, becoming, successful, helping each other out in whatever ways. So. I don't know. I'm optimistically waiting from here, and as part of my 5-year plan, I would love to expand my agricultural interest and investments into Cuba. So
Nice.
hopefully that situation can get resolved. Most people in Miami don't think it's going to happen. They think that I'm very optimistic, wishful and idealistic about it. But it's a place that has a very special meaning to me, and I've never been to that place. And I hope that in the future, obviously, I would love to be part of that. But Cuba is a very huge, massive problem in the United States, and so
Yeah.
I don't think someone like a football player like me could ever do something to improve the situation. But if it
Hey,
does
you never
naturally,
know. Mr. Vargas, he's over there affecting Arizona, so
right. I don't know. I mean, I hope so. Hopefully, in the next 5 years, I can be in Viñales out there,
yeah.
growing mamey or something like that. That'd be pretty cool.
Nice, nice. Anything like family wise as well? 5 years? Just
5 years. Hopefully, my kids can continue to inherit the values that I got that they will never be able to have because they did not grow up as a military kid. Hopefully, I'm able to somehow transmit it to them. Uh, but when you have a family like me, I want stability. I don't want surprises. I don't want things that are. I want boring Saturday nights where I'm not doing anything. I want to make
yeah,
sure that everything is calm and steady, and that's the peace, love, and health is the only thing that I can hope for the next 5 years.
that's good. That's good. Well, Alejandro, it's been a great conversation. I've enjoyed it and would love to have you on again if you ever want to come on again to talk about anything else. We have like tea time where I bring up just different subjects that we can talk about. But it's been awesome having you on the podcast, and I just want to thank you and tell you that I appreciate you taking time out of your day to just come and have a conversation with me.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Gina. Good to see you again.
It's good to see you too.
Thanks.
Hey guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. There are a ton more tea time episodes as well as stories that are going to be shared on this podcast to come. So please like and subscribe or follow down below. And I will see you all next Military Brat Monday. Thank you guys for tuning in. And I am so excited to continue this journey with all of you.